Welcome in, everyone, to another edition of the Bully the Board NFL board meeting. It's a two-man show today. We're down a man. No worries. We're going to be breaking down all kinds of efficiency data for you. We got marquee matchups to break down. You know the drill. Let's get into it.
Give a damn about a hater when I feel like it. Not today, not today, not today, not tomorrow. Get out my way, please. I'm trying to get paid. Not today, not today.
15 glorious weeks in the books, ladies and gentlemen. Holiday season is on the verge here, right around the corner. What a time to be alive. We were just saying right before we hit record, we got 4 separate days with NFL football this week. Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and it's going to be glorious. Steve, my man, how are you doing?
Hey, man, I'm hanging in there, happy to get some more football in. We'll kind of talk about some of these matchups and what I'm really grateful this year, especially compared to last year with the model and just have an idea of what the hell to do with all these QB injuries and benchings. But, I'm kind of torn with you, man. I don't know if this is the greatest football gift from the NFL, getting 4 straight days and what we said, triple header on Christmas, or is this going to ruin some families? Is this going to ruin half of America's Christmas Day? The presents, the Santas, no, I'm on the couch. I'm watching football. Don't talk to me. So time will tell. How about you?
You know what? Yeah, that's you're making an astute observation. This definitely is shaping up to be one of the more polarizing Christmases for some people, for sure. Like, it's either going to be like hitting some parlays, a Christmas bonus coming early, or Santa's bringing nothing but cold this year. Sorry, kids. We'll see.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll see.
Exactly.
All good, though. All good. Hey, while you guys are here, I appreciate everyone tuning in. Please don't forget to give us a like and to subscribe to the page here. We continue to do these board meetings for you guys every single week throughout the NFL season, and we'll continue to do so even into the playoffs. Hopefully, we're injecting some thoughtful and meaningful discourse and insight for you guys and into the community. So a like on the video and a subscribe to the page would greatly be appreciated. So that out the way, Steve, let's dive into the efficiency landscape through week 15 here. So let's try to tackle this from a conference perspective, AFC versus NFC here. So why not? Let's hit the AFC first. A pretty interesting weekend in terms of positioning and, what's going to happen with some of the top tier teams. So in my mind, a couple of fascinating things happened this past weekend. Okay. Yeah. The Baltimore Ravens, number one, continued, I think, to cement their position as one of the NFL's elites, handling the Jacksonville Jaguars and covering for us, by the way, with the model pick on the Ravens last week. So that was good to see. They looked really good, but my question to you is, how long can they keep it up? They lost another guy. They lost another running back. They're like on their 5th string running back. So I don't know how long they can keep that up, man.
Listen, they always say in the NFL, it's next man up, but this is getting pretty ridiculous. You know what I mean? I mean, this is just one of those teams where, you at some point you got to break. But I mean, they had an embarrassment of riches, right? I mean, we talked about J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards going into the season being that 2-man push, and obviously Dobbins went down early, and so that offense just does not seem to miss a beat. And as long as Lamar can just somewhat protect the ball, this team is to be feared, and rightfully so. So I'm excited to see what they can do.
Yeah, I mean, because they're the number 1 overall ranked team in terms of EP per rush, and obviously Lamar Jackson plays a big role in that. They get a boost from him, but yeah, man, they're elevating Melvin Gordon from the practice squad. Like, that's a name, like, where the hell has he been? He's
in the retirement home.
Yeah, 100%, man. Like, no hate on the guy, but that's just kind of the reality of their running back room right now. So they have obviously a huge matchup against the Niners coming up. We'll talk about later in the episode, but fascinating to see if they can continue it up. But elsewhere in the AFC, how about the Buffalo Bills maybe finally coming around and, dare I say, being the favorite to win the AFC East now?
Oof. Yeah, I mean, obviously the whole Tyreek Hill thing, something to keep an eye out on and what they can do. And we saw what Miami did without him. I don't think winning by 30 is what's going to continue to happen without him, and he's a huge piece. But I mean, listen, the Bills are to be feared. They are getting healthy. And damn, did they show that out. And I it's funny because last week I wasn't here, right? And so the Cowboys had just come off that win over the Seahawks, and Seth was ready to talk shit, and rightfully so, right? Because I've been down to the Cowboys, but now he's not here, or I can want to talk shit to him about that absolute monstrous beatdown by Buffalo. I mean, dear Lord.
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean,
bad.
if Buffalo is anywhere near what they can be, I mean, this team is to be feared, and they are going to jockey for at least a spot in the AFC Championship.
Yeah, I don't disagree, and Seth and I were talking about this last week too. Josh Allen didn't have like a crazy efficient game. I mean, he played well, and this was like the James Cook game. Like he really balled out for sure. But this was that the game, the springboard, if you will, for a late season push for Josh Allen, potential MVP. And if it wasn't for the Niners absolutely dismantling the Cards, and again, covering for us with CMC and Purdy just continuing to ball out, I might say you have some teeth to that argument. But the Purdy and CMC duo, if you will, show no signs of letting off that stranglehold, because Purdy is probably I think he's the odds-on favorite, but I've heard a lot of talk about CMC getting real consideration for the MVP.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where it's like, I don't know what more Brock can do. I mean, the dude just literally does everything you ask him to do. Hey, run the offense. Hey, protect the ball. Hey, win games. Like, no, that's not him, though. It's not him. He sucks. Yeah. It's like, bro, what do you want him to do? Yeah, he's just in the environment that he's in. But, with that being said, I definitely would have no hate. CMC is just an Iron Man coming through with all those injuries and still being this productive this far into his career. I mean, this dude is insane. So I wouldn't be mad either way. But I want to say just real quick, going back to Buffalo, I think what's scary if I'm in the league is Buffalo won that game. Yeah, with Cook on the ground for sure. But they won that through defense. And that's been the bugaboo all year. And because they've been destroyed on defense, they've been decimated. But to hold the Cowboys, the number one offense in the league, to an embarrassing performance like that, if they can do that and dominate without Josh Allen having a huge game, holy shit, they can get everything firing on all cylinders. So again, I'm not ready to crown them champs or anything like that. I'm just saying that's they showed that potential, and that's why it reminds you how scary Buffalo can be.
Yeah, I hear that. Yeah, and just for if people are wondering where Buffalo's at on this chart, they're looped in, transposed right behind the cluster of the Steelers, the Jags, and the Colts right there. Buffalo's right behind that cluster. So, you can see. I mean, they're slightly worse than average defending the rush, but against the pass, they're measured at this point in the season to be better than average. So yeah, I mean, they're getting healthy. You mentioned it earlier. Like if that trend continues. Yeah, I agree, man. Watch out. That could be interesting. The one other team I want to talk about, and then I want to see if you have others too, is the Cleveland Browns, and actually maybe one or two more. But Cleveland Browns and Houston Texans is what I was going to go for. But let me start with the Browns. Yeah. Mentioned it briefly last week too, but they've had 4 different starting quarterbacks this year.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. And you can see where they're at just on a raw pay-per-play basis. Like, offensively, when you have 4 different starting quarterbacks, it's going to be difficult for you to be efficient and to be good consistently, and that kind of bears out here, right? They're still relatively average, league average rushing the ball, which I think in its own right is still somewhat impressive considering the loss they've had at the running back position and some other offensive line issues. So that's obviously going to hamstring them potentially come playoff time, but obviously defensively still like almost off the charts. I mean, they're by far the number 1 overall ranked defense in the league. I think somewhat ironically enough, but number 2 is Baltimore Ravens. So that division, I don't know what it is, what's in the water up in that part of the country, man, but they just constantly know how to turn out good defenses. So I bring up the Browns again just because I think they're an interesting team to watch down the stretch here. Like, what kind of magic can Joe Flacco capture in a short amount of time? And my answer and my response to that is, I don't know, but I think the probability of it being a high variance situation is fair. I think it's not quite likely, but in other words, he could ball out for 4 or 5 games and they can make a deep playoff run, or he could be Joe Flacco that came off the couch, 10 weeks into the season, and they're gonna eat shit and flame out into the playoffs. And I think either one of those options at this point is just as likely.
Yeah, and it's kind of wild because in my mind, the Browns were staying relevant despite Deshaun Watson earlier in the year. I mean, this dude was he could not get out of his own way, and he was really holding his team back. And you just mentioned how good and dominant that defense was. And then you take Chubb out the equation, like that's devastating. So the fact that they're even near league average on the rush when you can't throw the ball. I mean, how often have we seen teams stack the box against a poor throwing team just because they know this team is going to be one-dimensional, right? And so for the Browns to kind of escape that, it's pretty wild. Now, what confuses me though, you look at the eye test. Joe Flacco seemingly has been balling out. And he's putting up numbers, putting up yards, putting up touchdowns. So if you go down to the QB volatility, and do not adjust your screen. I know the list looks really funky. It's because fucking Easton Stick is literally off the charts in terms of playing the quarterback position in a negative way, in a volatile way, that he's really skewing up the entire graph here. But what's wild to me is you focusing on Deshaun Watson. He's kind of in that center cluster, and then trying to figure out, hey, like, where is Joe Flacco, right? Like, what has this team done with Joe Flacco at the helm? And it's just bizarre to me how this dude can come in and just pretty much be not a world burner, but enough to turn this team into a contender. I mean, you look at Joe Flacco, he's in that top left-hand corner. The dude is negative EPA per play, and he's highly volatile, right? And so, but he's doing just enough. And then, this is what, 3-game span now?
I think so.
That it's just enough to not get in Cleveland's way when they need them to not get in their way. So I'm excited to see what they're going to do here.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, how about the NFC now? So,
I'm sorry. Can I before we switch gears?
Real
quick, we talking about quarterbacks, Jake Browning and the Bengals. I mean, everyone. Joe Burrow went down. It was over. We had that bet, I think, immediately after Burrow went out. And it's like, hey, we just need, I think it's like the Steelers, and they were 7.5 or whatever they were, dogs. It was like, we just need Browning to be an average quarterback, because that's what the model was, essentially putting data in for that position for him at that time. The dude has been quietly doing his damn thing. So, I mean, let's give credit where credit's due. The Bengals seem to be humming right now in terms of what you'd expect them to be without Joe Burrow. I mean, we saw what they were when Burrow was hurt early in the year. And so, this whole talk of, you can't replace them, a hurt Burrow is better than no Burrow. Because who was that? Jamar Chase? Like, no, bro, just sit out 4 games, right? At the end of the year. Dude, Jamar might have been onto something, because Browning, he seems to be that guy. So, and then my last one, I'll talk about, unfortunately, the Texans. I know they came through. They won against Titans last week, but I don't know. And I'm going to talk about them a little bit here. I don't know how I feel for CJ Stroud and that team without Tank Dell, without Nico Collins. It's just that seems like a lot to kind of overcome on top of everything else they've already overcome. But that's definitely my team to watch.
Yeah, for sure. I'm glad you brought that up. I want to touch on them real quick too. I mean, we thought for the most of last week that Davis Mills was going to start, and then whatever day it was, like Friday or late in the week, they announced Case Keenum was going to start. So at long story short, at that point, I had already taken, I think it was plus 4.5 on the Texans, because at that point there was an edge on the Texans. Then I'm like, shit, we got to rerun the model with Case Keenum because it assumed Mills, and luckily the number didn't really change, and they not only did they cover, they outright won in overtime, which a scrappy ass team, man. Like, I know the Titans are not world beaters; they're effectively mid-city. I mean, they're on a offensive per play basis, average, below average defensively, but. Still, I mean, with the backup quarterback, still tough to do, to go into someone else's house and win in overtime. So I don't know what to make of this team, but if Stroud presumably comes back this week from the concussion, they are playing the Browns we just got done talking about. So that's going to be really fascinating to see because CJ Stroud, if you want to, it's going to be difficult, I think, to point him out, but like singling out his statistics for over the course of the season, he has over 500 plays. He's top 7 in total EPA, in EPA per play, total passing EPA. So like this dude's for real, and I think there's not even a close second, right? He's the rookie of the year.
Oh, he's got to be. He's got to be.
Yeah. So they're a fascinating team, man. Yeah, I'm excited to watch the game, and we'll talk about it here in a little bit. But all right, how about some NFC real quick then? So for me, Steve, I mean, we talked about the Cowboys. Are they contenders? Fraud alert. All right, but I have the same question for you, maybe to the same extent about the Eagles. What I mean, because we had the issue or had a discussion with last week, and last couple of weeks, that yes, this team is still measured and still a good offensive team. That's where they're making their money. But defensively, you can see where they're at, and you can see how they're measured. They're struggling, and going up against a backup quarterback in Drew Lock, they kind of held him in check for most of the game, but whatever happened on that last drive absolutely went out the window, and he obviously drove them down, and they won the game. So how legit are the Eagles, man?
Yeah, I mean, they held him in check until it mattered the most, right? And listen, shout out to Drew for the backpack selling. That was pretty clean. But yeah, I'm concerned. If you're an Eagles fan, listen, yeah, I think now technically in second place in NFC East, tied with the Cowboys at 10-4. You've lost 3 straight now, and things happen, right? I mean, we saw San Francisco, right? I mean, they went through that rough patch where they had that 3-game stretch where Debo was out. So I get it. I'm not saying the world is burning here, but man, you got to address some things. I mean, Jalen is not playing well, right? I mean, we're talking about the defense. Defense has been abysmal. Yes, they have, but Jalen has not been throwing for passing touchdowns. He's not been leading this team to offensive points in the last 3 games. I'm not sure how have they scored. They haven't scored over 20 offensive points in the regular. It was the last 2 games maybe. But, it's one of those things where it's just like something's going on here. I mean, really the only time this dude is succeeding is when dudes are pushing his ass to get across the goal line or for a first down, 1 or 2 yards, which is incredible credit to do. But something's got to be going on here. I mean, the defense definitely is the start of it. But if I'm the Eagles fan, I am concerned about this team. Like, this is kind of about the Dolphins earlier. They're one of those teams where they beat up on teams they're supposed to beat up on, but you put them against true competition, they're not the same team as they were last year. So I don't know, man. Definitely. What about you?
Yeah, I'm trying to avoid the recency bias.
Sure.
Kind of like where my brain wants to go with it. Because to that point, yes, the last 3 games they haven't scored 20 offensive points. The efficiency seems to be down. How much you want to chalk up to the fact that maybe Jalen Hurts was sick, had the flu, whatever. Definitely didn't have an MJ flu game, so that angle was out the window. But over the course of the season, I mean, you can see where this team is. They still rank top 5 in overall EPA per play on the offensive side of the ball, and top 5 in success rate. Top 7. So they still have a lot going for them. And I think if Hurts is maybe injured and there's not really in transparency about that issue, I'm just kind of speculating. I really don't have any idea. But to your point, something seems to be going on. So without being overt, without it being clear what that is, I think until proven otherwise, you have to say that at this point, the Eagles are not quite frauds, but they're not quite as dominant for sure, and certainly would not be my pick to come out of the NFC. That's for damn sure. So it'll be fascinating to see what happens the rest of the way, because they have who do they play this week?
The Giants, which is a perfect bounce back game. Perfect bounce back game. Right, so right. they end against the Giants. Against the Giants, against the Cardinals, and then at the Giants.
Yeah, I mean, talk about a get right stretch.
Talk about soup for the soul. You know what I mean?
Oh man, no shit, man. So yeah, so if they go 3-0 over the stretch, then the world will be right again, and the Eagles are going to go on to win the Super Bowl. So
yeah, we'll I mean, for me, the only thing I'm worried about is these are going to be 3 inferior teams. Are we going to see the Eagles dominate and give them credit where credit isn't due, just for them to get bounced in the first round? if they don't fix these underlying issues. Now, to your point, this gives them 3 games to tune up the defense, get right with communication, get right whatever it may be. But until they face some stiff competition, I don't know if I can trust them in the first round. But, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Sure. Yeah, agreed. All right. The only other team I wanted to touch on is the LA Rams. So several weeks ago, we had talked about them in the context of, is this team underperforming? Like, what is their potential? They had been hurt a lot of the year. Matthew Stafford was still playing at a high level efficiency wise when he had all of his weapons. And the thought, generally speaking, was once these guys get healthy, watch out. And not to an extreme extent, but I think that has played out since that point in time. They had that heartbreaking loss against the Ravens 2 weeks ago. But they were right there with that one and went toe-to-toe with a very good elite team, top to bottom. They kind of handled business this past week against the Commanders. And they have, if I'm not mistaken, a relatively – I want to fact check myself real quick before I get too crazy. But they're 7-7, tied with the Seahawks. But they have the Saints this week, the Giants the following week, and then they close with the Niners. We'll talk about the model picks. We're on the Giants this week, but Rams could very well easily win this one. I don't know if I said Giants. Sorry, we're on the Saints. The Rams could still very easily win this one. They have the Giants. Nothing's guaranteed, but they're going to be favored. Probably should win that one. And then the Niners, presumably, if they handle their business the next couple of weeks, they might not have nothing to play for in the final week of the season. And I could very well see a scenario where the Rams kind of backdoor themselves a little bit into the playoffs. And then could they make noise against a team like the Eagles, who maybe limp in or just still don't get their shit right by the time the playoffs come? So that's a team. Also because I did sprinkle on them a couple weeks ago to win the NFC. With the double dip methodology. So I'm obviously have a rooting bias interest in this one, but I like what they've put on the field. I think this team could be dangerous.
Yeah. Besides the Niners, nobody in NFC is infallible. Nobody in the NFC is untouchable. And so if you get a hot Rams team who's coming in and, after a slow start, really are picking up steam. Yeah, I'd definitely be. I'd be careful because you know what the Rams kind of remind me of. They remind me of what was that was it the 07 whatever the Giants where they were the 5th or 6th seed and they won like every game on the road on the way to the Super Bowl. It just seemed like you just don't want to face because they are just hot enough where I don't know if I feel comfortable. So as long as they don't draw the Niners somehow in the in the Niners first game, I think the sky's the limit for LA until they get to San Francisco, personally.
Okay. Yeah. I agree with you. I like the sound of that, Steve.
Yeah. Now, can we just real quick before we move on? I want to talk about one NFC team, the Bears. I don't know if you watched this game, but the Bears.
I caught the second half
in the most Bears fashion of all time, and in a game you thought, guys, we should be losing these games. Guys, this is not the time. Guys, let's lose these games, right? We got Carolina, number 1. Let's improve our draft stock, make some absolute noise. This game's meaningless. They fought back, and they fought for pride, and they fought as if Justin was going to be there next year. And then just when they had the chance to actually go through and have a good win, they start to blow it. They blow it. They blow it. They give the lead. They blow it. And then just when you have a little bit of hope on that Hail Mary, the ball falling into Mooney's lap.
That was so wild. I know, that was heartbreaker.
There has never been a game that epitomizes and captures the struggle of being a Bears fan than that one game. No matter how good you think you are, it's going to be heartbreak. When things are bad and they're starting to look up, it's going to be heartbreak. When you're right there at the promised land, there will be heartbreak. And it's just it was just a classic Bears game. So, shout out.
I just feel your struggle through the screen. I know I get it, man. But hey, you know what? There's always next year. as they say. and we've talked about it before, but they're well positioned, to make some things happen. And maybe Bears will Bears, man. Maybe the Bears will Bears and screw it all up.
No,
but
yeah, that's a problem. They will.
I'm telling you, they will. Yeah. All right. Fair enough. All right. So moving on to the Week 16 matchups here, we want to break down a couple of key games in our opinion, some big time matchups here. So we'll go through a few of them. We'll start first with the Browns and the Texans. So this also is a model play for us this week. Our number says the Texans by 4, and the spread opened at 2. We were able to get them, at -2.5, and the market currently sits. This screenshot was taken a little earlier in the day, so I want to give you the latest as we have it, or as we're speaking here. So this is currently sitting around 2 at bookmaker, circa 1.5. So a little bit of disagreement early in the week still, but you can get a 1.5 or 2 at most retail books here. So Steve, we talked about both of these teams a little bit earlier on here, but wanted to get your take on this because, side by side in a vacuum, you compare these two teams and it's like, yeah, hell yeah, we're all over the Texans. Everything seems to line up, in favor of the Texans here. But what I think is going to be fascinating. Number one, this pick and this play assumes that CJ Stroud starts. So if CJ doesn't start and come back from concussion protocol, this is likely going to be a no play. So assume CJ starts. But that said, what are you expecting out of this game, assuming he does come back with what we mentioned earlier, his reduced weapons and the Browns' dominance on defense?
Yeah, this game scares the shit out of me. We talked about earlier in the year, the model was late to the game, picking up on how good the Texans were because of how the model was built, in terms of, looking back at, I believe, the 12-game rolling average. And that's good. It protects you in ways from, these kind of spikes that really, people will give too much weight to, right? So with that being said, though, I think the model is now catching up because it has all these data points looking back at the season saying, damn, the Texans are really good. And you can see here, looking just at the metrics we have, the numbers are there. Like, the numbers aren't false. It's just those are numbers with this Texans team balling with Stroud and Dell and Collins and Singletary, who's still there, right? And Dameon Pierce. You have all those pieces working in tandem. I don't know, with all of this disruption, plus this being Stroud's first game back, that you're going to get this same Texans team with the continuity and the offensive firepower on that side of the ball, combined with how dominant Cleveland has been. I mean, if there's been anything Cleveland's been this year with their running back and quarterback carousel, they've been dominant on defense. So this is a tough spot for me to kind of buy CJ Stroud, as amazing as he's been. And the dude has absolutely been amazing. So,
right,
I'll take it, but I don't feel good about it. Hands up here.
Yeah. I mean, obviously smaller sample size with Stroud still being a rookie, but you can see in that small sample size how his career EPA stacks up against Joe Flacco's. But on looking at some of the other stats to compare these two teams, they're actually, yes, the Texans do have the edge, but they're not all that dissimilar. Like offensive success rate is pretty similar, red zone success rate, points per red zone drive, like those things are pretty comparable. So if there's any lingering effects from Stroud's injury, or Flacco has one of his I guess I'll just call it high variance games where he just balls out, because the Texans defense is still still above average in many respects. But I don't know, who do you trust more? Do you trust a rookie more, or do you trust a grizzled old veteran?
Yeah, and again, we're talking about earlier, the Browns were doing things despite Deshaun Watson. I think they're now doing things because of Joe Flacco. And so I kind of look at this Browns team as a team that's on the upswing, meaning that they're probably going to play a little bit better than their season average numbers are, at least on the offensive side of the ball. And I think the Texans are playing a little bit worse. That's why this game scares me so much. But listen, that's why we play the game. We'll find out come, is this a Sunday game? 12:24.
This is a Sunday game, yeah.
Yeah, we'll find out come Sunday.
Yeah, I hear you. So I'm with you a little bit. This one does scare me, but We got a good number, and the market hasn't really agreed or disagreed with us at this point yet. But
Yeah, and I think that's a great point, right? I mean, we're talking about this. Why do we have the EV there? Because we've gone through the three. Our model, our number says 4, and we have it on the other side of the 3. The moment this thing hits 3, you've sucked up all that EV and you spit it back out. So yeah, you're definitely have some. I'm not calling it protection, but you have protection there. So I'm with you.
all right, hold on a sec here because I just might be reading the room wrong as I speak. So our number, we got -2.5.
Mhm.
Something I want to what happened because it was. I wonder if CJ Stroud is out. As I speak, not but an hour ago, it looks like this now moved from -1.5 to +1.5 at Houston.
Oh,
So
oh,
I totally was reading the screen wrong. But looking at Unabated's odd screen at the moment, this is 100% already. We have another fucking unfortunately, but line movement of the week brought to you by Unabated. Not in a good way either, because across the board, this is now +2.5 or +2 at retail books, and it's +2 at bookmaker, +1.5 at Circus. So I think the market knows something maybe about
yeah.
CJ Stroud's injury. Is he going to be coming back late or not coming back at all? So this one, unfortunately, the market, yeah, we gotta pivot 100%. So this is not great for us.
Yeah, I think we
um,
need to rename this the unabated shit my pants game of the week because that's scary. That is absolutely scary.
yeah. So all right. Well, we bet early. We bet at openers every single week for a reason. Number one, we talk about this ad nauseum throughout the season, but at openers, the lines are far less efficient. Obviously, there's not enough, or there is less information baked into openers than there's closers. Our model does not account for potential injuries, if you will. Like we assume Stroud starting, and we hadn't had any reason to think otherwise, or when we modeled it out. So you live and you live and you learn, you live and you die by it. Sometimes it goes in our favor some weeks, and other weeks it does not. So we'll see what the market does with this one the rest of the week. But yeah, early signs are not positive, but we'll move. We move. All right. Next one up, baby, is the Cowboys and the Dolphins. So our number says it's Dolphins -3. This opened at 1, and this is currently where the market is sitting at as well. There are some 1.5s out there at retail books, but 1.5. So the market hasn't really moved on this one yet. We talked about the Cowboys a little bit, touched on the Dolphins earlier as well, but what are your thoughts on this one, Steve? Because this one, again, presumably you get a key guy back in Hill. In my mind, I haven't heard or seen confirmation of this otherwise. I'm presuming that will be the case. He almost gave it a shot this past week, so things may be trending well for him. But I love this one. I love this one for a
Ooh,
lot of different
ooh.
reasons. Um, you have two teams who have a similar resume in the sense that both have this weird common denominator of not having good records against teams that are above 500. Dolphins are 0 and I believe the Cowboys are 1-3 against teams with winning records. So something's got to give here, right? As far as that goes, because both of these teams have winning records. The Cowboys also have the road bugaboo. Like all their
Mhm.
bad losses have come on the road. So there's those two weird, kind of unquantifiable elements of it all. But um, yeah, Cowboys are frauds, baby. You gotta like this one too, no?
Yeah, no, I love it. I love it. Yeah, and you said it right. They're bad. The Cowboys' bad losses come on the road, and I'm not saying that every road game is going to be an automatic L for them, but you look at these two teams, something's got to give, like you mentioned, and I trust the Dolphins more to get this job done. When you look at this Cowboys team, they do traditionally struggle with powerhouse teams, minus the Eagles, right? But on the flip side, they lost to the Cardinals. I mean, they got demolished by the Cardinals. I mean, it's a 12-point loss, 28-16. So I don't know. If you're telling me that Cardinals team can do that to the Cowboys, I just have lost all faith in them all year long. So you look at some of the numbers, right? Cowboys, we all know their offense puts up numbers. Their offense moves the ball there. You can see there in the echo rate, the third down conversions. You can see there in their, their offensive points above average. This is a good offense. On paper, this is a good offense. It's damn near a great offense. So, for me, the difference is going to be what are those bugaboos, right? Like you said, Kevin, something has to give. These two teams do not play well against great teams. So one of these teams has got to blink. And for me, I'm taking the team that doesn't have the road issues at home, right? And that's going to be the Dolphins until the Cowboys can otherwise figure this thing out. But yeah, I love this -1. I love that it's essentially getting close to a pick 'em. And you can see here talking about how the line moves is actually moving slightly in our favor for that COV. So I think the market's going to agree with us here.
I hope you're right. Because as we're kind of talking that a little bit, I'm gonna say flip-flopping in my head, but I think I'm just being more realistic and not.
What are you afraid of?
Well, you look at these teams strictly from the offensive side of the ball, so very, very similar, very comparable. Like, yes, Miami has been measured to be one of the best for a majority of the season, but success rate virtually equal. Tackle rate, Cowboys have the edge there. Now, where they don't have the edge, and this could come into play, and we talked about this a little bit last week, is their red zone success rate. So they have a high tackle rate. They're driving down the field, getting to at least the 40-yard line, but they're stalling out oftentimes in the red zone. So that if that trend or if that continues, then yes, I like the Dolphins to come out and cover here and win for sure. But where the kicker again might be is this team, the Cowboys, that is, defensively speaking. If I go back to if I can't go back, hold on. What was fascinating to me. Sorry, let me go back to the defensive chart here. That's offense. Defense. Okay. So we've been touting and the Cowboys do have a very good, very dominant defense for a lot of the season. The Miami Dolphins have been playing better on defense. They just come off of a shutout, and recency. I want to try to avoid the recency bias here. Let's not forget who they were playing. They were playing the shitty. I mean, look where the Jets are, rushing and passing the ball. They can't do shit. Okay, there's like a JV team out there. So, yeah, shutting out a team is hard. I get it, but I think the Dolphins are being measured to be maybe better than they might actually be by having to play the Jets, having to play the Patriots a couple times. So those are 4 observations against really, really bad offensive teams. So it scares me a little bit that having a Cowboys team who is highly motivated coming off that bad loss against the Bills, I could see this being a shootout. And if Tyreek Hill doesn't play, especially, like, that's going to be huge, So we'll see what the market does as the news, comes in about him later in the week. But I just don't love it as much as I did when we first started talking. That's all. But I still like the Dolphins.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're forgetting one major point though. The Cowboys are frauds. Don't let those numbers scare you, Kevin.
Okay.
They're not real. They're not real, Kevin. They're not real. All right. And listen, you have a great point about the Dolphins and their defense, what their defense looks like, as part of who they played, right? So yes, they have the Jets. They have the Patriots, they've played the Panthers this year, but they've also played the Eagles. They've also played the Bills. They've also played the Chiefs, right? So, I do want to give credit where credit is due. This team is definitely there over the course of all of their games this year, or at least the games in a row on average. So I don't know, man. This is a team that is on the upswing, and you're right. The big question for me is, will Tyreek play? If Hill's out this game, then yeah, I am with you. Completely different conversation that we're having here. I am definitely more concerned. If Hill is 80, 90% healthy, I don't know, man. I have a hard time.
He plays? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, he'll play, but I have a hard time believing that the Cowboys can do anything to stop this Miami offense. Because even if he's a decoy, I mean, him just in the lineup shifts the defensive schemes and plans, and it opens everything else in the offense back up. So, yeah, I don't think the Cowboys are ready.
Okay. I hope you're right, man. I hope you're right.
Yeah.
Go Fins. Fins up, baby.
Yeah.
All right. one of two games on that we'll cover here today, at least one of the two Christmas games. So first up is the Eagles and the Giants. Our number says it's Eagles fly by 14. Opener was at 12. This is now sitting at 12 or 11.5 at some retail books. We got them at minus 10.5 on DraftKings. So we have already seen some good closing line value there. So again, similar to the first matchup where we with the Browns and the Texans, on paper, comparing these two teams, what's not to like? I mean, you have to. There has to be a little bit of, I guess, handicapping here in conjunction with the modeling aspect here, because we just basically got done talking about or asking the question: are the Eagles frauds? And here we are saying, well, hell yeah, let's fucking hammer 10.5 or 14, whatever, So a little bit of dissonance going on in my mind. Like, is something wrong systematically with Hurts or that offense? Like, having two new coordinators seems to be affecting them to some degree. Like, is there enough there to cover basically two touchdown game? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Festivus, whatever you believe in, if you're an Eagles fan, this is the gift for you. This is the gift for you. Yeah, I mean, look, and I agree. We were just talking about, are they frauds? What's going on with the defense? But if there were ever a gift that Sean Desai needed, it's the Giants offense. Yes, I get it. Tommy DeVito,
Cutlets, baby.
I know. I get it. He's the rage. He's sexy. He's got that Italian, swag going on with his agent. But let's not forget who this team is. This team is a bottom of the league offensive EPA per play team. They have been damn near all season. So look, we don't. Yeah, I mean, look, yeah, right. I mean, don't compare San Francisco and Dallas and hell, even Seattle. As you can see there in the top right corner. Don't compare them with New York. This isn't the same issue. This is not the same matchup. This is a get-right game for this defense. It's going to be a get-right game for this offense. And the Eagles are going to have an absolute feast. So for me, I know you're saying we got to do some handicapping here. My handicapping is don't overthink this. Don't overthink it. 10.5 is a great number. 12 is a great number. Now again, our model makes it 14, so let's not get crazy here. But I think you're going to see the market agree everything up to about 13.5 is going to keep getting pushed up.
Yeah, and to that last point, like, makes me feel warm and fuzzy again that we already have market agreement with us. You can't get 10.5 anymore. So we locked this in. We locked this in early, and the market was buying that up, and they thought 10.5 wasn't enough. So we're good to be on the right side of that. So yeah, I hear all that. And I hear what you're saying. Don't overthink it. You have a model for a reason. So take the value where there's value, and obviously we did take it. Yeah, I'm just fascinated to see, because obviously Tommy DeVito has very few observations at this point in the season. He started maybe 3 games, right? Somewhere in that neighborhood. So when you have low sample size guys like that, I mean, you have, in my opinion, the potential for variance to kick you in the face a little bit easier, or maybe a little more frequently, because you just don't have enough data to reliably say, like, yeah, this guy is going to be who he's going to be, right? Tommy Cutlets could go out there and have a baller game against an underperforming defense, like we already talked about. So this one kind of smells like it could be a backdoor to me, man. I don't know.
Yeah, man. I've got a hard time believing that. What you're saying fundamentally, I get. Listen, it's a small sample size. We did the same thing in reverse last year with Brock Purdy, right? When he was so good. Like, do you really believe that? But I mean, I'm not really. I mean, you look at the EPA per play chart. I mean, again, to your point, small sample size. But this dude is just, for me, not to be feared. I mean, he had one really good game against Washington. And what has he really done since? I mean, what happened against the Saints? Right? I mean, right? Like, so, I don't know, man. I get what you're saying. It is a fair point about caution and not, having the mega well locks and things like that, and over going to recency bias. But man, this is just too good. I don't know if I can let you piss my parade here.
Okay. All right, fly Eagles fly. I'm with you, but I just I don't know, something
Sure.
smells fishy about this one for some reason. I don't know.
All right.
Last but not least, though, the nightcap, last game of the week, the big one, Niners and the Ravens, baby. So our number says it's Niners by 4. This opened at 5.5, and that's largely where the market sits at the moment now. So we locked the Niners in. Or no, excuse me. This is a no bet for us officially. Technically, there was less than 1% EV on the Ravens when it opened, but now this is sitting at. Let me get the latest. You can get a plus 5.5 at FanDuel. Elsewhere, it's about plus 5 at retail books here. So not enough value on the Ravens for us to take it. But like we said, expecting a really, really good game out of this one. You kind of look across the board here. I mean, the Niners do have the edge. Like the career EPA for Purdy versus Lamar Jackson. Like I'm quite surprised at the stark difference there. Like that's pretty wild. Brock Purdy still has a small sample size, relatively speaking, right? But I see this game either being this weird defensive struggle, like low scoring game, or like both teams are scoring 30 plus points. One caveat I'll say, and I want to get your take, is that we mentioned the Ravens earlier and another guy going down with their running game. I'm a little disappointed that there's no value on the Niners here because I think that might be one angle of this that the market at least hasn't bought it up yet. So probably nothing there. But how are the Ravens going to continue to generate offense and efficiency with guys going down, dropping like flies against this defense?
Yeah, I'm actually glad this is a no bet because this is a game I want no part of. This game scares the shit out of me from either way. It's a game I'm going to watch, and I'm going to have my popcorn ready. And what you say does make sense, Kev, in terms of how many times can you do next man up, right? Especially against this defense. Now, the Niners are a little bit banged up themselves, right? And so, kind of looking at this, I do expect it to still be a juggernaut kind of defensive battle back and forth with some offensive explosions sprinkled in between, whether that's, Lamar or Zay Flowers or, CMC or Debo, right? But with that being said, I think what this is going to come down to are two things. One, consistency and finishing drives. And for that one, I got to give the edge to San Francisco. I mean, you look at that alcohol rate. Yeah. I mean, that is insane. 61% alcohol rate. This offense is ridiculous into getting into the opponent's territory up to the 40 and beyond. And you see the red zone success rate.
Tied for number one in the league, echo rate with the Cowboys.
Pretty damn good, right? Now, and then so getting there, finishing, but then also protecting the ball, which all goes hand in hand, right? Which is, I think that's going to be the Ravens' potential bugaboo with Lamar and some of those decisions, as well as we've seen these receivers just uncharacteristically just be plagued with these drops here and there. So those are two things I worry about. And then the last thing is we haven't seen it so much this season as we did last year, but the Ravens and that fourth quarter defensive collapse, right? We've seen little hints of it here and there this season. Hasn't been as bad as last year, but all that being said, I do think the Niners won this game, but this is going to be so entertaining to watch. I don't really know if I can pick a side here from a spread standpoint at this current number.
Yeah, fair. That makes sense. And to your original point, like I'm also kind of glad that this isn't model play, particularly for the Ravens side, because it's been one of those weird things for us this year that every time we bet on the Ravens, the fluke shit happens with Lamar. He has a fumble, he has some dumbass interception, or something happens where you can point back and look back at that game and say, that right there, that was the moment we lost this game.
Yeah.
So again, I mean, Mark Andrews is still out, still on IR, right? And they have Zay Flowers and Bateman, Beckham. OBJ isn't doing a ton on a week-to-week basis. So how much longer can they maintain that number one rushing attack with another guy going down? How much more are you going to ask Lamar to do? So with the guys that the Niners have coming off the edge, their ability to rush the pass, and I'm gonna see where they stack up in EPA per rush allowed. So the Niners actually aren't all that great. They're bottom 5 in the league overall in EPA per rush allowed. So that if there's one, like it's the unstoppable force meets the immovable object type of thing, you know. I if you're going to ask Lamar to rush it 15 plus times and he can generate 4+ yards every single time, all right, yeah, I see where this is going. I see where the Ravens have a shot here, but yeah, you give that Niners the ability to scheme against that, knowing they got fucking the scrap heat pile and running back room behind Lamar, not able to generate any explosives, probably. Like, yeah, this one, I'm just glad the model doesn't have anything here because I would hate to be on the Ravens side, frankly, here.
Yeah, but I mean, again, you have the best running back in the league in Lamar Jackson. So,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, you're not. Yeah, fair point. Yeah, it's like you just give the dude the rock and just hope he doesn't get his head blown off along the way.
yeah,
So,
seriously. Yeah,
I don't know, but it's gonna be dope, man. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm really excited for this one. This is gonna be a perfect nightcap for the weekend. Going to learn a lot about not only these two teams, but at that point we'll see. We'll know a lot more about where these two teams are going to be in terms of their overall playoff positioning and all that good stuff. So, oops, sorry, Steve, almost kicked you out.
like, oh, yeah.
meant to take out
and your first mid-bar show. Yeah, exactly. And Bully Boy, not just me; it's Kevin.
Okay, my bad. Yeah, so. I totally didn't mean to do that because we have still two more things to cover here. So one, let's break down the model recap from week 15. So had a very good week. Okay, we had a very good week. Model overall went 4-1. We technically one of these. Which one was it? I know I didn't get the Vikings because I was asleep at the wheel. And which one was it? I don't know. Am I just counting wrong? Yeah, because we went 4-1, but we're counting 5 here. So sorry for the confusion. But going back to it, Steve, we were all together this past weekend. We were watching the games. That Vikings Bengals one was wild.
Oh yeah,
great cover for us. The Steelers one was just an absolute shit show. You know, it just really, I mean, they went up 13-0. We're like, hell yeah, this is looking good too. It's gonna be a good day. And then they couldn't do jack shit after that. So that one was disappointing. But then the rest of them, man, were relatively sweat free, no?
Yeah. I mean, the Saints one was never a contest. I think the Bucks, you know, was pretty handily, and then we all saw what happened with the 49ers. So yeah, I'm with you. I mean, listen, if you tell me you go 5-1 or even 4-1 every week, I would take that this way, that way, and twice on Sunday. So this is just another.
It was a good weekend. It was a good weekend. There's no other way to slice it, man. So looking ahead to week 16 now, that's bringing the model record to 38-27-1. So sitting at a very, very profitable win rate as the season here is coming to a close here. What's that?
Said, all right, Emmer Fudd.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. All right, let's run through these. Model plays real quick. We talked about a couple of them already in the game breakdowns, but let's just give you the rapid fire for the plays that we have here. So we have Houston -2.5. Got that at FanDuel. Buffalo -13.5. Arizona +4.5. New Orleans +4.5. Miami Dolphins -1, and then Philly -10.5. So we talked about we got to the Eagles, we talked about the Texans, and the Dolphins as well. But there's another one that I want to talk about, and give me something to lean on here because I'm very confused. The Bills and the Chargers game. This opened at 13.5, as you can see here. This has far since moved in the wrong direction. This is sitting at 11.5 at some books, or 12 and some other ones. So the market almost immediately has disagreed with us here. Have you seen anything from either of these teams in the news cycle or anything to point to what could be going on there?
Yeah, I mean, other than Easton Stick is the GOAT, and he has the greatest head fake in all of professional sports. No, I have excuse me, no, I've not seen much. Obviously, the Chargers are coming, from complete disarray with the Herbert injury, Staley being fired, and all that sort of stuff. But I don't know. This is something where I think clearly either we're missing something or truly this is a head fake, but I can't make left, right, up, or down as to why this line is moving against us. I think 13.5, quite frankly, isn't enough. So, well, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, our number again puts it at 16, and we got it at 13.5. So, yeah, unfortunately, this one, and we talked about already, the Texans. Those two have moved against us in kind of two big ways. So, one of the first weeks I can remember in a long time, perhaps maybe even the first one, where we've had two games pretty quickly move against us in terms of CLV. So already kind of feeling like a little bit of a weird week as far as that goes, right? But
yeah,
we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah,
hopefully
but I mean,
the market.
The Texans makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're
the
right.
Texans makes
If that's
sense,
largely a Stroud issue, then it makes sense.
Yeah, but I'm half joking, but I'm half serious. I wonder if is this addition by subtraction? Is the loss, is Staley so incompetent that the firing of Staley is giving the Chargers a 3-point boost? Like, just from sheer lack of mismanagement, this team's already better. I don't know.
Yeah, you know what? It's funny you say that, because I have no data to back this up or to quantify it, but you don't have to look that far back, even in just this season, to understand that there might be something to that, if you want to even call it an angle. Look no further than the Raiders when they fired Josh McDaniels, and then Antonio Pierce takes over, and the level at which they have seemed to flip a switch or turn things around and start playing at a higher level once he was gone. Could the same thing happen here? I don't know, man. Maybe, but I don't know who the interim's going to be, or if Kellen Moore is still going to be calling plays on offense. But yeah,
Smith.
you might be on.
Gift Smith.
Okay, I don't even know who that is, but shout out, good for him. But
maybe
there's
outside linebackers coach. No idea who he is either.
Wow, random. All right. So yeah, there could be that. There could be that angle here, but yeah, those two, the Bills and the Texans, again, have moved against us a little bit, which is unfortunate. But let's talk about the other ones real quick. So the Cardinals against the Bears. Cardinals traveling to Chicago to take on the Bears. Yeah, our number basically says coin flip game, and opener was at 4.5, and that's largely where the market is at now. I don't know how you feel about this one, Steve. I mean, you can see the EV there for that one at 10%. I mean, number one, we've said it again. We'll say it. We'll continue to say it. You never have the edge you think you do. I don't know. I'm struggling. I'm very conflicted. As a Cardinals fan, I don't want them to win another game at this point in the season. Okay. And just mental modeling it out, it's difficult for me to have any faith in this team the rest of the way. I don't care who they're playing. They can be playing the Panthers this week for all I care. So, traveling to the East Coast, they've not historically done well in those type of situations. The offense is banged up. Kyler Murray got knocked out for a couple plays last game. Is he 100%? Probably, maybe close to it, but he's got nobody to throw the ball to. Marquise Hollywood-Brown is injured. He was held catchless this past week. He's got Trey McBride, the tight end, but that defense basically just like Swiss cheese, man. They allow anybody to run through there. So I think Justin Fields and co could really gash them for some big chunk yards. So this one scares me a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Everything you just said about, minus the injuries, why you don't believe in the Cardinals is why I don't believe in the Bears. But what I do believe in is the Bears will find a way to screw you no matter what you need from them. They'll just do the opposite.
No matter what, huh?
Yeah. What I definitely could see is, the Bears kind of getting up on this in this game early, and then classic Chicago blowing a lead, and now we have a nail biter. So, which would work out in our favor for the Cardinals pick here. But I don't know. I really don't know what to make of this team. There's reports saying that the Bears want to go get Caleb Williams. No matter who they get, Fields is not their guy. Then there's some saying, well, maybe if Fields plays well, he can salvage what's next. I think it's time for them to split. So, and the only reason I bring that up is this now a job audition for Justin Fields the rest of the way? Which, if the coach just shut up and let Fields play, I think that could actually be pretty troublesome for our pick here, because Fields has the flashes. So I really don't know how to make up or down this game. I really wish this wasn't a model pick. I really wanted to stay away from these two shitty teams in general, but I'm being forced into action here, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah. I mean, same deal with Kyler Murray though, with the auditioning. Like he's got a lot to prove, man. So this one scares me. And then next one up, we haven't talked about yet, is the Saints playing the Rams, who we did talk about earlier. So our number says they're only going to lose. They should only be +2. We got them at +4.5. So again, 10% edge. You don't never have the edge you think you do. For what we talked about earlier with the Rams and starting to click a little bit, and this one also feels kind of ick to me. I don't really know what. Again, I feel like a broken record sometimes, but you have a model, you quantify your edge, you take the edge where you have it. I just struggle to see. This feels like one of those games where Derek Carr disappears again and just absolutely shits the bed. And this might even be a 2-score game. I would not be surprised to see some fluke shit like that happening. So this is back in LA. Matthew Stafford and company appear to be healthy and clicking, at least offensively. So this one gives me a little pause, man.
Yeah, I think this, to me, I don't feel great about it, but I do feel confident that the model was picking up something that I otherwise would have missed or would have buried deep down inside of me. And I can kind of reason my way through this. I know Seth here, he'd love to shit on Derek Carr and his play recently, and that's fair. But the Saints, sneakily, they have a damn good defense. If you go back to the EPA per play, I mean, they're top 5. Now, listen, the haters will say it because they play in the NFC South. I get it, but listen, at the end of the day, their defense is still good. They've gone against the Lions. They've gone against some of these other high-profile teams. So I'm okay with this. I think 4.5 is about as low as I'd want to go, but I can definitely see them being in the race here, kind of neck and neck down to the wire. So 4.5 feels okay to me. Doesn't feel great, but it feels okay.
Yeah, no, to your point, man. Yeah, number 3 overall success rate allowed, and number 3 in EPA per pass allowed, and top 5 overall. So, yeah, I mean, I guess I have not been paying as close attention as I should, or rather, maybe just paying too much attention to the offensive side of the ball and what Derek Carr and how inconsistent they are on that side. So, I don't know why, man, but I don't know why. I think I've been a good boy this year. I hope Santa comes and delivers me a winning week, but we'll see, man. Yeah, this week feels pretty. It's one of those weeks where I can't quite put my pulse on it, and largely again because we've had 2 games very clearly move in the opposite direction from our numbers, so which just can't make you feel warm and fuzzy inside. But again, nonetheless, we if CJ Stroud doesn't play, we'll probably end up pulling that bet and just cash. I mean, at least I might. I don't know about you, just to lose less potentially. So we'll see. But yeah, how are you feeling about the week and the slate otherwise?
Yeah, I mean, otherwise, I'm feeling pretty good. I'm gonna just take the Texans out of this equation right now. Okay. But I love the Bills, Dolphins, and Eagles spot. Love those 2. I think the Saints is a smart play, although it doesn't feel good. Right. And then the Cardinals, to me, that, like I said earlier, that one, so we'll see.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think I'll take the Texans out of it as well for the moment. Yeah. I might say 2 and 3 or a 3 and 2 at best.
Ooh. Oh, yeah, okay.
3 and 2 at best is just kind of where my head's at here. And, again, coming off of a 4-1 or 5-1 week, we know that's not where we will sustainably hit week to week. So maybe there's a little bit of regression due, and it comes this week. But we'll see, man. I'm excited nonetheless. Like, fluke shit can happen. We've had a couple of backdoors go our way this year.
Sure.
Whereas last year we were just anecdotally kind of felt we had a little bit of the opposite effect. So very much could have the same deal this week as well. So who knows? I'm looking forward to it, man. But all right, ladies and gentlemen, that is it. A lot of rundown for you. Hopefully, again, we provided some insight, provided some good context for y'all for the upcoming week. Steve, I appreciate it, my brother. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas to all. Appreciate y'all tuning in. We'll be back next week. Everyone have a good one. Good night and good luck.